Hey everyone, welcome to Automation. So you may have seen the last video that I did. It went out on Tuesday talking about the new Cyberpunk concept car showcase that is going to be happening, well, mid next month. And I thought that I would take some time today to modify one of the cars that I made on stream to fit the rules for this challenge. Now, my original intention was just to make my own full car on stream like I did last time, but this car is already very good. The Brigadine X is now what it's called, but it was called the TTX at one point, and this is going to be the showcase edition of it. Now, we're going to be following the rules as closely as possible, but this car will not actually be entering, just because it's not really fair to me for me to enter my own challenges. So what I'll be doing instead is just making this as a guideline for those of you who are interested in this series, and yeah, make sure to follow the links in the description if you want to participate. So first things first, we have two challenges with this. The first one is aesthetics, and that's the big one. The reason is because last time there were 178 submissions for the showcase. That is a lot, and there were too many to go through. We did it, but there were just way too many. So this time it's limited to 50, and it's going to be an elite 50 as well, because people are going to be voting based on the looks. So you've got to make your car look good. Well, if you do the math there, it's probably, I guess, a 70-something% chance that you're not going to get chosen. Assuming we get around the same amount of entries, probably a little less this time. Yeah, it's pretty important that you put a lot of time into the styling of it, and that is what we're going to be doing today, as well as fitting the rules. Now, one of the big ones is budget, and as you can see by this screen, we're a little over the 150k budget. So in order to get the cost down, we are going to need to reduce body quality, but here's another important rule. We are within the 80s for everything. So the model year is 89, 89 for the engine, and also the other trim levels and such, and our body is an 87, so it fits perfectly. Now this is where things get bad, because here, this quality slider, I did some testing earlier. It was at positive 15, we're at about 6.5 million. At 0, that brings us to a lovely 2.4 million, so that's a $4 million slider right there. And with that down, I can confidently say we're going to need to swap the engine as well, because it's probably a little bit too strong for this. We also need to match the exact engine sizes that are according to the chart, so we'll get to that in a bit. But again, the quality sliders are going to need to be down. So just for a quick test, let's lower them down and see how close we are to the actual budget. We want to make sure, okay, we're losing power quickly here, but we'll solve that in a bit. But we want to make sure that it's actually going to be possible first to get this car within regulation. Okay, so after lowering down all of the quality sliders to 0, we are at $72,000. So there definitely is room to have some good quality items on these cars, and we're going to go for that this time. But first things first, let's swap the engine. We're going to have to decide which one of the 5 we get an option of to put in here. Now, this car came with a boxer engine, and if we're following the table, that means we have to do a 5.75 cc boxer engine. All of these engines are huge, so this is going to be interesting. The problem is, will it even fit? Now, if we do a Boxer 6, which is what we have to do, we'll make it an aluminum block, which is probably a little more expensive than necessary. But I just want to make sure that a 5, it isn't going to fit. Uh-oh. Okay, never mind. If you have the stroke all the way up, you can get a 5.7 in here. So it's a 5.750. Now, one of the rules for this is that we need to get as close as possible, and yeah, you can see we're within 10 either way, and that's going to be fine. As long as it's within 10 either way, I'll be willing to accept it. So that's what we have for boxers. We could also do a V8, a V10, or a V12. And then for the elite few, there is a V16 option. I'm feeling kind of futuristic today. I really want to try out the V10. We can do an 800cc V10. Is that going to fit though? Probably not, as nothing is going down. Yeah, so we can't do the V10. What about a V8? If we try like this, we need to get up to 900 cc's, and by 100 I mean 1000. Yeah, that's a little bit too big once again. We could try, that's once again too big. So it seems like we're kind of limited just based on the form factor of this car, most of that being that it's mid-longitudinal. We could also do transverse. We might be able to get a little bit more out of it, actually. Let's give that a try. We could probably up some of the quality of these things as well if we need to, but I just want to try some of these different combinations to see what we can do. And it seems like if we go transverse, we're stuck rear-wheel drive, so we have to keep that in mind. Okay, the V10 dream is still alive. I feel that we can get away with this, and I want to try the V10. It's not a common engine for the channel, so let's go ahead and do it. Now keep in mind that this is a transverse V10 in this car, which is unusual to say the least. That's like a tank style engine. Alright, we're gonna try with the best quality stuff that we can get in here. We'll do heavy duty stuff for now, and we'll mess with this kind of thing later. But you can see for the V10 it's supposed to be 8,000 cc's, and we are at 7,998, so that's going to be close enough. Let's do the Vvt intake, and no turbos are allowed for this, so we're not going to be able to use turbos. For injection, it's going to be the obvious, just the best that we can put on there. And for the fuel, again, the obvious, it's got to be super leaded. We'll put race tubular exhaust on it. Hopefully that's not too expensive. And we make a pretty easy 500 horsepower there, and I didn't even have to tune it. But obviously I'm going to tune it. Now, one thing to keep in mind with this is that the degradation is very important, so we're not allowing anything more than negative 35%. So if you want to push your engine hard, that's okay, but you can only push it to a maximum of negative 35. So we're gonna have to keep that in mind. That's something that I don't regularly abide by, so hopefully it doesn't end up with disaster for this one. Just taking a quick look at things, we can see that our engine costs about $1900, but in the overall scheme of things, we are up to, obviously we're not ready, we haven't got the drivetrain in yet. Okay, just out of curiosity for this, I want to quickly pop all this stuff back onto it. We've definitely lost a lot of power with this car in comparison to its old engine, and we'll have to come back to this, but I'm going to just quickly swap some of these things just so we can see what the price will be. 84,000. Okay, we've got tons of room then. So for naturally aspirated engines, the biggest way that you can make good power is just to up the cam profile. However, you have to be careful with that because it can throw off your gearing, and you have to gear properly to your cam profile. If you've got a really choppy cam, it might actually hurt your car having more power that way. So you have to be careful. For our build here, we're going to need to first increase the RPM limit, which is going to increase degradation quite significantly, as you can see, especially here at the high RPMs. Now, one way that we can mess with that a little bit is by changing different types of things. This is not good. Don't ever use this, but stick to forged. If we need to, I mean, we currently definitely need to, but we'll be able to up the quality of our engine parts a little bit to help with that. Yeah, I think things are okay. We just need to tune properly here. So first things first, our exhaust is restrictive, and yeah, it was very restrictive. That is a 655 horsepower. Now you can also see over here we are not currently using all of our fuel, which is not a good thing. We need to be using that, and putting up the fuel mixture is actually making us not need as much octane. But what we can do to compensate for that is increase the compression. That's going to raise our need for high octane fuel. That leaded fuel comes into play here, and it's the same thing with the cam profile. If we put this up, I think I'm gonna max it out at 60. Again, this is gonna be rear wheel drive, so we don't want to have it to be incredibly undrivable. I seem to remember the last car that I made was also rear wheel drive for the showcase, and that was an interesting driver. So our conrods want to die. Currently they are, yeah, okay, that makes it a little bit better. We'll keep them at lightweight forged, which will help with that. Our pistons are not good. This is not good. Okay, we might have to reconsider some of my choices here. Evidently, my RPM limit is just too high for this. We're gonna have to lower our cam profile down a little bit, and by doing that, we'll be able to lower our RPM down a little bit as well. We'll probably have to increase some of the quality of the internals to fix this, but 700 horsepower is not bad. We can obviously get more, but I don't know how much more I actually want to get, because it will get to the point where it's not exactly drivable anymore. Okay, so 707 horsepower, 54 cam, we'll put that up just one more, so 712. We're using our octane pretty much, but this is again the issue. So let's go to the bottom end. We'll up this, oh, that tooltip is in the way. We'll up this quality. Okay, we're right on the mark there. I'm going to put it up one more just to get it into a good spot, and I think that's going to increase our cost pretty significantly, but I'm unsure. Oh yeah, no, it definitely did. Just that one slider has increased the cost of things quite a bit. We're at 109,000, but that's going to be good. I think 712 horsepower, 857 newton meters of torque, that's going to be fine for this. We don't want too much because it's going to become undrivable. Now, I think we can go ahead now and start on the drivetrain. I'm going to skip fixtures for now. We'll come back to that in a second. But again, drivetrain is very important. 0 to 100 in 3 seconds is very fast. That is actually quite nice. Alright, I'm going to keep things here, well, just like this, and I'm hoping that that'll help. Our current wheel spin is at about 84%, and it is complaining about downforce instead of wheel spin, so hopefully it's fine. We're going to keep the manual as well. Radial semi-slicks, very important. The line is just a little bit out here, so we're going to need to adjust our tires. We'll probably have to widen this thing to make the wheel spin go down, because currently it's going to basically spin off the track at any point it can get. Brakes are going to need some fixing. It seems like things are a little bit off here, especially the rear brakes. So awkwardly, our rear brakes are actually quite a bit bigger than the front brakes. In fact, a full 100 millimeters bigger. We're gonna have to increase the pad type to make this work. Yikes, that's pretty awkward, but hey, that's kind of what we're dealing with this one. It does stop decently, so I'm thinking that that's gonna be okay. Hopefully, at least. Now, we are still fully clad, but we do not have downforce. For whatever reason, it's thinking that the downforce is going to cause the suspension to bottom out. I'm thinking that's probably just because it's way too low. However, yikes, the steering is a little bit off there. And the downforce here, I mean, it's fine, but the front is not great. We're going to need more wings on the front. And when it comes to interior, we're going to drop down to one seat. We want to make sure, once again, to follow the requirements. So we need handmade interior, and entertainment should be the best available. We need that luxury cassette. And what else do we need? We also need at least some kind of power steering, which is here. We've got ABS, which is good. Safety is optional, so we're going to leave that at none with 0 quality. And suspension, we need at least hydropneumatic, so we'll put that on there for now. This is just so we can get an approximation of where we're at in terms of cost. And lights, we'll figure that out in a bit. Let's check the cost again. 120,000, oh boy. We're getting close to that budget. Okay, let's take a break from the technical things for a bit. I think it's time that we focused on the aesthetics. Now, this car has been driven on the neon track quite a bit, just in my, well, driving for the showcase, but also driving in the stream that we did. And one thing that is kind of bothering me about it is that it's black. Now, the reason that I made it black initially was just because that a lot of Cyberpunk cars seem to be black. However, I think that it would be better to make it a slightly lighter color. It's just because it's very hard to see. I was thinking of maybe doing something that's still dark, but not quite black. I don't know though. Now that I say that, I'm kind of reconsidering, because we could also take this and just add a ton of lights to it, and then that would light it up. I don't know. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to throw... Oh, that's not right, but I actually kind of like it. Let's just quickly swap all the body paint for a silver. Not sure how I feel about this one. Obviously the wheels can't stay that color if we do this, but that might be just a little bit too bright. Oh no, they added more options. We can make the entire car look like leather. Cloth exterior. Alright, I've decided after much deliberation to paint it this dark, well, it's quite a dark gray, and I decided to paint the top black, so it's just a little bit different than it was. Also, the spoiler and the mirrors are also going to be black. I think the louvers are going to be as well. Uh, if I can change the paint color of them. Oh yes, I can. So that's the secondary color, and it is perfect. Alright, so that is just a minor tweak there. We definitely have more that we need to do. Now this car is rear-engined. You can see the shiny V10 under there with actually pretty decently forming exhaust. I didn't think that that would turn out well, just because generally speaking it kind of kinks a little bit, but actually that turned out nice with the dual actually quad exhaust out the back. What I want to do, because I kind of made a mistake before, these lights here are pop-ups, and when you have them popped up they look terrible, but when you put them down they look kind of sleek and nice. However, it means you cannot see at all in the track, so we're going to have to adjust that. I also want to add more lights to it just to fit the aesthetic just that little bit better, and I think with some minor tweaks like that we should be able to come up with something nice. Oh, and we definitely don't need these intercoolers in the back anymore. That's unfortunate, but we don't have twin turbos these days. Let's go ahead and start modifying the back a little bit. Now what I did here was I went for a cyberpunk aesthetic. I put a bunch of lights, and I know that these ones don't work, so what I'm going to do is get rid of them, or possibly change the color of the bulb within them. I was thinking of maybe, like if we made it into a turn signal color, then it would go off as a turn signal. However, we already have turn signals here, so I don't know. It's going to be a red turn signal. And this car is just missing something right here. It's just empty, so we can definitely adjust that too. We want, well, I want more of these side lights. I have this little light in here as well, but lights are going to be so big in this, like, lights are just so important. I swear the UI got smaller in automation. I don't know why, but it did. Alright, I've added some fog lights. I like the way they look, but I was thinking about this bumper as well, or sorry, splitter. That's got to be black now that the rest of this is black. And the same thing here, that's got to be black too, so it kind of pulls the whole package together. Okay, so we officially have lights on the front, which is good, but we are still missing a few things. I think we probably should add just a small vent there as well. Probably just something tiny, like one of these perhaps. Yeah, like this pretty much fits perfectly with these pieces, so yeah, that doesn't look too bad. It kind of just fills it up. It seems, well, this is reminding me of some previous cars that I've made actually. Right, so I had said that I want to work on the back, and I wasn't joking. I kind of just got a little bit delayed there for a second when I was thinking about other things, but here we are back on the back. What we want to do here, at least what I'm thinking works best here, is actually, let's get rid of that. These are front pieces, so they have lights and such. We don't need that. We just need this piece here, and hopefully, yeah, that sort of does have the aesthetic I'm going for, but I want to still make this sort of see-through. I just want to make it compartmentalized, so it's different little pieces instead of one big exit at the back. However, I was just thinking, I have this little piece here that I can use to cut away the back, which would be so cool if we can get it to work right. Well, it looks a little gnarly, but goodness, if it only cut out all of the pieces at the back, that would be perfect. Basically, I just want to see this like V10 in there. It's kind of working a little bit. I think we're gonna hang on to it. The problem with it currently is that it's making a bit of an issue down here. Without that though, it would be pretty much exactly what I want. So considering I've made this mess, now I have to clean it up somehow. And as usual, I'm going to take to the vents to fix it. Hopefully they do what I'm hoping they do, and just be able to cover over this. Yeah, there we go. So that will cover over that gap and just make it a little bit cleaner. And that actually does that pretty much perfectly. Yeah, yikes, that is really nice. And unfortunately, we probably won't be able to cover that gap, but I'm going to leave it for now. It's not really that noticeable. When you're just looking at the car, you kind of have to like zoom in and then go underneath to see it. We'll see if it makes any difference in beam, but for now we're going to leave it. And one thing I probably should do also is raise up the mufflers just a little bit or the tips I mean, because there are no mufflers on this car. But just raise the tips up a little bit so they fit like that. And I think that's pretty much perfect. So I've spent a bit more time on it, just doing little tweaks here and there. I want to add more lights, but I'm unsure of the way to do it, because I really like the way this car looks, just like a stealth, sleek kind of look to it. However, I want to add more lights because we just need more lights. I feel that the fronts just aren't enough. However, again, I do like the fronts. I like this this look here. We could try one of the other variations, but I'm not sure. Right, so if we leave this like this, and we just start changing all of these shiny bits to be the secondary body color, we should be able to get something decent out of it. And once again, changing the white to be much less obvious. That doesn't look too bad, actually. Yeah, that's not terrible. It's got kind of an odd front end now. The lights are very obvious down there, but we kind of need them, otherwise we're not going to be able to see. Now, one thing that I do know is that whenever I'm streaming, having indicators on does mess up the game. It just does not like it. And unfortunately, there isn't exactly like an assign light button yet, which would be great, but hasn't happened. So indicators are really the only accessory light that we can do. Like rear lights will only really work if facing the rear. Front lights will only really work if facing the front. I have experienced this in the past with the disco puck. But indicators will work all along the entire car, like pretty much anywhere an indicator will work. So that's kind of the only way to make lights appear anywhere that I know of. Oh yeah, and I kind of forgot before, just widening the rear just a little bit extra, because I think we're gonna need that extra width when we attempt to put a drivetrain on this thing. So yeah, the issue, oh, this is just a full Mustang rear light, isn't it? Goodness. Wow, I didn't know I had that. But the issue is, if I start putting lights on, I was thinking of doing something a little bit more creative. Like I was going to maybe take one of these style lights and just kind of wrap them around the arches or something like that. I mean, that's just an idea, but if I did, I'd have to make them all orange, or at least the bulb part orange, because that's the only way that it'll glow that I know of. So that's not really going to work. I think there are two ways to do Cyberpunk. You can either just go exceptionally crazy, just like full on lights everywhere, just decals everywhere, just like put a massive supercharger on there, or you can go sleek, and for me I've chosen to go sleek. I think, like, I'm thinking about this way too much. We're probably going to be fine as is. Maybe I'll change this up a little bit. I don't know, go for the Testarossa look. But for now, I think that we're going to be okay looks-wise with this. I fixed the issues it had before, such as the lights, and also these lights here, hopefully. And I've just trimmed it out just a little bit to make it look a little different, fixed the back end, and I think we're good to go. Now back to the drivetrain. So we should be able to widen the rears quite a bit, and I want to do that, and you can see that pretty much fixed a lot of the issues, but putting them up to 305 was pretty needed. Now, if we raise this, we're going to mess things up, unfortunately. It seems like right there is pretty much max sportiness, but our drivability does go up a little bit when we have it down, so I'm going to leave it somewhere in between. For this car, the 20-inch rims are pretty sweet. We could go a little bit bigger. It doesn't seem to mess up too much when I do that. Actually, you know what? It kind of did mess up quite a bit. Oh wow, okay, that really ruined things. What have I done? Oh, okay, the rears shrank when I did that, that's why. Yeah, if I go up to a 21, I can't have as big wheels, so that's why. Okay, that's gonna be fine just like that. This being lined up is, well, that's how it always is, but there's a weird dip there, which is not quite right. Our wheel spin should be a little bit less now. Yeah, okay, it's quite a bit less, which is good. We're going to keep the alloy wheels, and we already touched the brakes, but now everything's messed up, so we've got to mess with them again, make the fronts a little bit bigger. Aerodynamics. So I have everything. Let's just put them both up to 75. That's going to be good enough for now. We already did interior, we already did safety, suspension, race preset once again. that raises the car just a touch. Like, these numbers are pretty decent here, so we're doing well. Alright, so the warning is saying that we're terminally oversteering. I guess that is indeed true, considering it's going up, especially at speed. We'll probably have to leave that for now. And looking at our approximate cost, we are doing well. So we still have approximately $28,000 in the bank. Actually, that's an exact value. We need to take that money and spread it around this car and make sure that we're making something that is good. So like areas that need help. I think wheels are probably something that we definitely can raise the quality of. That's going to help us quite a bit. So if we go +6, oh wow, that's almost there. One more tick on the wheels puts us up to 147. If we go to drivetrain, put it up one tick, 148. Drivetrain again and again, 151. So one off of there, and 149. Uh-oh, where can we get this extra 1,000 from? There we go. One on suspension, and we are at the perfect amount. That is 150,000. So here's a build review for you. This is the Brigantine showcase version, the Type X. It is a 712.3 horsepower, 8-liter V10 with a weight of 1,379 kilos. It's rear-wheel drive, which is a mistake, but it's going to be interesting to drive. We'll give it a try in a second. It does look the part, I think. It's a little bit simplistic in comparison to what I was going for, but I think it's got the place. This is going to be a pretty decent driver, hopefully. But let me know what you think of it in the comments. You can use this as a baseline for what you want to design for your car if you're going to enter the competition, but be sure to be creative. Don't just copy what I've done. Make sure that you're doing something unique that is unique to you. Alright, let's test this thing out in Beam. Alright, so here is our new version. This is the specific version that we just made with the V10, and I also have the old version here. Now, admittedly, the black is a little bit nicer in Beam than the gray is, but I think in automation the gray is nicer. When looking at the two, they're pretty similar, but it's driving where things are very different. You can see there are some pretty significant skid marks in front of the V10 version, and you'll see why in a minute. But here is what the Boxer version is like. Now keep in mind this Boxer version has, I think it's 1,350-ish horsepower, and it also happens to be all-wheel drive. I think it's all-wheel drive at least. Yeah, that's a definite yeah there. So it is all-wheel drive, which means that it's not spinning its wheels as much. It drives pretty decently. This one is actually not too bad in terms of driving. It's one of those cars that again suffers from having way too much power, but we're gonna feel that again in a minute here. Alright, let's move on to the V10. Here we go. Oh yes, it is angry. Let's go for a bit of a drive here. Yeah, it's a little loud, and it's a little fast as well. The rear-wheel drive is doing some work here. Unfortunately, if we really want to, we'll just hammer on all the brakes here. But if we really want to, you can spin the wheels with no issues at all in this car, and it is a lot of fun. You just leave 11s everywhere. Let's switch over to realistic. Now I want to see, this thing has 5 gears. We'll put it up into 5th, and oh, okay, no, we're not going to spin the wheels in 5th or 4th. We could probably do it in 3rd though. Okay, extremely easy wheel spinning in 2nd. You can pretty much do a figure 8 for days in this car. Honestly, this reminds me of the 80s Countach. It's like way too powerful and just a little bit too dangerous for the streets. And I forgot to shift gears there and there. Oh boy, I've got a ways to go before I get the manual gearbox down. But anyway, this car, yeah, it was worth it. Well, that was pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take it on to the Well, oh goodness, I just noticed how big those back brakes are. What the heck? Why do they need to be bigger? I'm not even sure, but let's go ahead and try this out on a neon track. Alright, so here's the deal. We're not going for any records here. All we want to do is cruise. This is the kind of thing where you put on some of that 80s synth music and you just drive through the neon city with only the sound of your engine and the music. In this case, well, we'll be trying to go quick, but I'm legendarily bad at these neon tracks, so hopefully it turns out okay. I'm not particularly concerned with being fast, but yeah. Okay, so far so good here. I am already 99% deaf and can't even hear myself think when I'm driving this car. Oh yeah, just a bit of a spin there, don't worry about that. Almost off the track as well. If we finish a lap, it's going to be a miracle. Now, I just want to test it out on this track with some speed first, and then we won't bother with the second lap. We'll just stop and take a look at it. Oh, this is a nice piece right here, because you can actually get a bit of light on the car. That's actually kind of cool. Right, so that was a bit of a spin, unfortunately, but we're back in action once again. And I say that, oh, please don't. Don't worry everybody, every car is tested with equal incompetence, and yes, that is a consider quote. Okay, coming down this section here, the brakes are incredibly strong on this, which is excellent. Hopefully, oh, yeah, there is a barrier there, so we're not gonna fly away. Yikes, I did not realize the V10s were so loud. Oh, this is the perfect corner for this car. Just build up that speed, 200 kilometers an hour with ease. And then on the brakes, no issues there, but we're gonna have issues here. Whoops. Yeah, I think the V10's a little loose in there. Alright, so let's just ignore the UI for a bit here. I've got the lights on so you can see what it looks like at night. This is obviously on the Glow City track, but I think you can see why the black cars don't quite work as well, just because you can't see them. However, cars like this one, I think it turned out pretty decent in terms of lights. It could use a little bit on the sides, and I wish we could do underglow, but we're not quite there yet. If you want to take a look at the signals, this is what they look like. So it's flashing at the back. Unfortunately, my theory of the sides was, I guess, incorrect, because only the little piece inside of it is flashing, which is awkward. But anyways, the fronts, there is nothing, so yeah, no turn signals. Nobody in front of you is going to know where you're going. And let's go ahead and attempt that cruise. We'll see how this goes. Hopefully it goes okay. So, did you like that? Hopefully you did. I'm not even sure what kind of music went there, but yeah, hopefully that turned out okay. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please be sure to read the rules before you participate in the showcase. It's going to be a pretty tight deadline here, being due mid-August, as well as only one submission per person, and you can only submit once. You can't submit more than once, and if your submission is incorrect with the rules, then you won't be able to redo it. So that's how it is. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video though. I will see you again soon. Now, I just want to thank those who have chosen to sponsor the channel. They are the supporters. Thank you to Will especially as an advanced supporter of the channel. I will be coming out with some other things soon, I'll say. So look forward to that. I did post a bit of a spoiler in the Discord. Yeah. Hopefully we can have a couple more build videos next week. Let's see how it goes.